Muito bom dia a todos e a todas e muito bem-vindos a este momento. Good morning. The USP Lectures program began in 2015 with the objective of broadening the access to current scientific discussions and honoring distinguished researchers. It is intended to be accessible to USP community in general, as well as to all interested public. And to present our guest, please, Professor Luciano Migliaccio, from the Faculty of Architecture of USP.
Bom dia a todos, é grande prazer para mim apresentar amigo e collega che è il professor Stefano Bertocci, professore titolare da Università del Dipartimento di Architettura dell'Università di Firenze e direttore del laboratorio di levantamento architettonico con cui noi collaboriamo già alcuni anni con pesquisas comuns aqui na USP entre di levantamento no centro histórico de São Paulo e em outros lugares do litoral. A colaboração do professor Bertocci tem sido extraordinariamente importante justamente para introduzir tecnologias de inovação no levantamento arquitetônico, na documentação histórica e in funzione giustamente do planejamento e da gestão territorial da arquitetura e do urbanismo in São Paulo. O professor Bertocci tem uma experiência muito longa, muito grande em projetos internacionais ao redor do mundo, na América Latina, nas repúblicas bálticas da antiga União Soviética, cioè a Lituânia, a Letônia, mas, digamos assim, várias colaborações em todo o mundo, digamos assim, com as suas técnicas específicas. Então, eu gostaria muito de convidar o professor, justamente sem mais demoras, para a sua apresentação. Stefano, muito obrigado pela sua presença.
So good morning, sorry for the late because of the traffic jam, but now we are here. Thank you for the organization, thank to the Vice Rector of the Research, and thank for all the university for hosting us. It's very important for us to have our relationship, international relationship, to disseminate the knowledge about restoration, historical research, history of architecture, and especially, that is my specialty, survey of architecture. Nowadays we have a series of not so new, but new utilization of technologies that the world of the digital heritage give us the opportunity to have a better knowledge of architecture. So this is a little presentation of our laboratory, but you know that Florence is important especially for the restoration, the knowledge about restoration, the scientific knowledge of restoration. So our work is aimed to use these technologies, these various typologies of technologies, for the knowledge of architecture. The knowledge of architecture is very important for the process of restoration. If we don't know each aspect of the architecture, each element of the architecture, we don't know how to solve the project of conservation. Conservation is a sort of mix of historical knowledge for the historian, but it's very important, the historical knowledge. That guide, that is a guideline for the process of restoration. But we have to add to this process the knowledge of the materials, the knowledge of the surfaces, and also the knowledge of the static situation of the building itself. And this is what we present today. In the first part, we present a sort of survey about a big project that we have founded by the EU that is named Franciscan Landscape. And in the second part, at the end of the presentation, I have the pleasure to present you another application that we have had with the EU, founded by EU, by a program that is named Creative Europe, that is about the music and theaters. So we have two different aspects in the lessons of today. So F-Atlas is a big project that is aimed to the knowledge of the Franciscan observance architecture. It's aimed to the architecture, not only in the history, but certainly the history is the joint that links all our research. And our travel, our trip of knowledge is between Italy, that is where it's born, Franciscan Order, and where developed and where it changed in various orders. And the trip of this order, the observance, that was born in the 14th century in Europe. And this project is aimed to know the architecture of this order that is not really well known. We know the biggest building, St. Francis in Assisi, Holy Cross in Florence, the big monumental buildings. But the aim of this project is to go to enlarge the knowledge about the little settlements that we will see that are not so little as we know before. So we have a little presentation, but you can read about our team of research. It's an international team. We have the team of University of Florence, the team of Portugal, ISTE, and UIL, and the Spanish team from Barcelona. Each one of these teams has his specific topics. For us is the topic of architecture, survey of architecture. For the Portuguese is the topic of history of the religion and dissemination of the order. And for the Spanish, we have, the aim is to implement the database through GIS system, Geographic Informational System, about the settlement in Europe. So we have several aspects in this project. Nowadays, I will present, sorry because it's a very big project, but I will present only the part, the Italian part, and the other contribution in the survey of the building. That is also the topic that we have in the degree of architecture in our classes that we had nowadays in this week in São Paulo. In São Paulo, we are surveying already the Church of San Francisco, so the circle is closed. So the general goals of the project are to use integrated digital and traditional survey methods in order to develop cultural heritage management and promotional tools for the cultural heritage. Because one of the topics that is also in the title is the Franciscan itinerary, Franciscan landscape. So how to connect this landscape, this European landscape. To straight the cognitive framework on a heritage of spiritual legacy of St. Francis of Assisi and this connection in the territory. To define a methodology of documentation and knowledge for conservation. This is a very important topic of our work because the idea is to have a sort of protocol for managing, for conservation. This heritage that is strongly under risk of abandon, under risk of earthquakes and so on. Earthquakes, especially in Italy, that is a very important sort of risk. So the specific goals are also the definition and criteria for individuation of Franciscan observance landscape, architectural and cultural heritage. Because we know that they change, the order can change the settlement and can use a settlement that was already founded. So we find Benedictine that founded the settlement and then the Franciscan come. And this is another important topic for our research, how to define the settlement and the originally situation of the settlement and the typology of the architect that we have in this situation. The development of the establishment of an interactive database, because nowadays the technology has helped us to disseminate the information, and the changing of information is very important because, as we know, we have different ways, different culture, different ways of interpretation, of restoration and conservation. And they to develop tools for the management and monitoring the material and immaterial cultural heritage at regional, national, and European level. And also, and this is a very important topic for EU, because EU needs to have a follow-up follow-down in the local government who has in charge of the conservation of the buildings. The development of instruments for promotion of European heritage in order to pass on tradition and analyze the mutual interference between countries. So this is the framework in which we are working in this project. Now we have the step of the project. First of all, the preliminary census and case studies mapping. We speak before about GIS that is useful for connecting data all over Europe. And, as we told before, the historical documentation and census and analysis of archive, research on historical records, historical reconstruction and definition a timeline, identification of case study to be deepened. Because we can see in the last part of my presentation, we have chosen in this big framework of all the settlements in Europe, we have chosen some case studies to deepen, and we will see in the last part of our presentation. Our work is the digital survey and data processing of the building itself. So we have several phases, and we will use several instruments, as we speak before. 3D laser scanning, technology, drone, photogrammetric survey, and other aspects of our work for the documentation of the shape of the building itself, but already the surfaces, because in this manner we can individuate the criteria for conservation. Another aim of the project that we have seen is the dissemination. So, in the analysis that we will see later, we can see the experience, for example, the 3D modeling, or the video. We will show some videos that is, on one hand, is a promotional video, but on the other hand, is very important for the knowledge of the heritage itself, and the development of a sort of virtual museum and application, for example, for smartphone and so on. And we will see later also a little video showing how we can use these tools. Also, digital prototyping can help, for example, for the blind people to know we have seen this kind of materials also in the Museum of the San Paolo for showing the facade of the building itself. So it's already a very important tool because we have to disseminate the knowledge of we have studied. So we have a sort of, I show you a sort of catalog of the case studies that we have chosen. In Portugal, we have chosen the north part of the Portugal with 4 case studies. And we have here the first work about Santa Maria de Mosteiro. The importance of this project is that analyzing different typologies of buildings, but also different countries, we have the opportunity to see how in the different countries we can, or cannot, in this case, cannot. We can have the conservation of the building, or, as it happens in Portugal, the destroyed, the destruction of the building itself, or improper use of the building itself. For example, in the case that we have analyzed in Santa Maria de Mosteiro, we have the church itself that is well conserved because it's in charge of the community, of the priest of the community. But the monastery, that was also an interest monastery and big monastery, because you can see here in the survey we have the cloister and so on, is completely destroyed. It's completely abandoned. And it's very difficult also to find new destination for this building. This is what I speak before about the interest of European Union to the result of this project, because to have a criteria to disseminate in Europe and to have to find some follow down in the legacy, in the administration for the conservation of this building, of the memorial of this building. Another case study is this that was a wonderful place on the ocean, on the island of the ocean, that it was born as monastery. You can see in the interior part of the fortress, so we have the ancient monastery, and that was used later for the defense of the coast with the construction of the fortress. We have here one of the video that we have realized to give an idea, because we have the survey. We have the survey with the plan, section, and so on. But for the dissemination, it's very useful, a sort of video, especially in this case, we have the drone technology that helps a lot and give the idea They are all short videos, the clips in 2 or 3 minutes that shows the situation of the building itself. This building has now a new destination. They want to build a hotel and with the piscine and so on. I don't know how, but this is the situation. What I speak before, it's very important, the analysis of this heritage, because it's really under risk, and it's important, the documentation. This is another case that is completely destroyed. But I have to point your attention because this destruction is quite recent. In the 60 year, 1960, it was already stand. And now, in 30 or 40 years, it's completely destroyed. It's already important because we can see this example as an archaeological place for visiting, but now it's impossible to visit because it's covered or vegetation. It was also very difficult to realize the 3D scanning and to realize plan and section of this building. Instead, we have another situation. We have chosen two between the 4 case studies, 2 of the main case studies. One is the monastery of San Miguel de Scornalbó. This is, as we can see from the section of the church, it's a mountain. It's a place for eremitic settlements before from the 11th or 12th century. Then was a settlement for Benedictine. Usually, eremitics became Benedictine settlements, and then in 15th century became from the Franciscan observance. Now it is a museum, but it's not in so good state of conservation. They are planning a restoration. And so we will help this situation, we will help the municipality and the superintendent that is in charge of the conservation of the place, giving a sort of master plan for the rehabilitation of this place. This is another case. This is a case study that is monastery of Chelva in Valencia, near Valencia. It's already the same system. It was here a settlement, an eremitic settlement, also a Rupestrian settlement of eremitics, and then became a monastery for observance order. They conserve one of the topics of the observance is the garden, the relation with the landscape, the holy wood that usually they have very close to the convent. And here we have also the other aspects about the eremitic use, because also in the convent, the Franciscan convent, they have already some hermits that stay together with the community. Now this complex is quite in abandon. It's quite abandoned. It was destroyed. The church, especially the convent, was destroyed during the Civil War. They rebuilt the convent, and now it's abandoned. So this is another problem for conservation. What is it? The situation, which use we can suggest? The administration didn't know how to do in this place. It is a very, very big place. We have already here a video that can show the situation of the place. Usually we use the drone for various utility. First of all, for the video, because the video is more impressive for the people, but already it's a very important system for the photogrammetric survey. So through the video, through the drone, we can reach the part of the building that are on the top of the building, the roofs, the tower bell, and so on. So it's very useful to realize the model from outside, that it will be connected with the survey, the 3D laser scanning survey. Now in Italy, it's very close, so it was better for us to study this convent. First of all, obviously, we speak about little buildings, but here, in this case, as you know, the Basilica of Santa Maria degli Angeli, the Porziuncola, is the place of the born of the dead of San Francisco, and the place that is the main house of the Italian observance order. So we have surveyed the interior church, the Porziuncola, and then already the Basilica that has already under risk about the earthquakes. You know that in Umbria region we have already some strong earthquakes. And now we are helping the order to project a rehabilitation of the nave of the main building that presents some cracks in the walls. But already in Italy there are already some little convents. This is the Sacro Specchio di Narni, that is in Umbria already, near the town of Terni. And usually in Italy we have the situation of this eremitic settlement. Usually they are eremitic settlement belonging to the Eremitics and then to the Benedictine, and then the Franciscan cover the place. Here, Franciscus goes and stays a lot of time here. So we have here a little chapel near the place of San Francisco, and the convent downstairs, all attached to the rocks. We have to the rocks of the mountain. Here we have here the little video that give us the idea of the landscape and of the building itself. This is the main buildings. It's very impressive. And we can see the rocks on the behind with the caves for the eremitic settlement. It's some of these came, especially the Specchio, it's a break in the mountain, belongs to the prehistoric religion, the Roman religion, and so on. So it's very typical for especially for San Francisco, to go in the place where it was a religious cult that belonging from the ancient time, and to reconsecrate this place with his own presence. Here we have the last of the case that I present to you is the convent of San Bartolomeo. Now it's on risk because it has, with the last earthquakes, the big facade that you can see in front of the church, that is a building itself, is cracking and goes ahead. So the church is closed, the convent is quite close, and it was restored also in the 80 years. So we have a building that is restored, good restored, but now it's impossible to use because of the cracks of the earthquakes. Here we have give, in the frame of the work, we have given the idea, the suggestion, and also the analysis for the project of consolidation. So we have here the plan, the 3D model, and also the use of 3D model for analyzing the building itself. This is the analysis of the building. This is the plan of all the and the section of all the building with the part of it. You can see why in color the part which has the frescoes, because in the cluster they have a cycle of frescoes. And we have now the analysis for the stability that we can extract from our database, because this is an opportunity that we have with the 3D laser scan. We can use the system to analyzing if the wall straight on stand really, and the deviation of the walls from the vertical. And this gives us, with the system, together with the system of analysis of the cracks that we can see over the building in the interiors and the exteriors, we can give the opportunity to analyze the system of the deformation and to give some information for the project of reconstruction and consolidation. In this case, we have prepared, as we have told before, also because it's closed, it's very dangerous to go inside, while the administration is preparing the project of conservation, we can give already this material for the dissemination, preparing a sort of a virtual tour. You can see here the opportunity that gives us a sort of Google map that you can have a trip inside the church, and you can already, because all the painting of the church has been recovered by the superintendent in the magazine. So if you come inside the church, you can see nothing. But with this system, you can have the idea of the painting, the idea of, and the description of the painting itself. The last one, it was not not the least, is the Eremo delle Carceri. You know that Eremo delle Carceri is the first place of San Francisco that is very close to Assisi, and is the cave where Franciscus goes, first of all, before his trip all around the Mediterranean world. You can see here the settlement of Francisco, that is this underground place, and it's very difficult for the people to reach this place because it has narrow steps, low door, because it's a very interesting place to visit. And also this place, this is you can see that the building itself is attached to the rocks of the mountain, so it has a linear distribution. This is the situation of the section, and the 3D model helps us to analyze the distribution of the building itself and so on. So we have a little video that can show how, which is our idea for the dissemination and for the building of the slow. Se si può velocizzare. Eccolo qui. This is a sort of website where we have some opportunity to visit, and the aim of this work is not in charging. So we can see that we have the localization of the place, because one of the aim of the project is to build the itinerary of the knowledge. And this is important now. Also in Italy we have pedestrian that goes through the Camino of San Francisco and so on. So it's very important to give the information for how to reach the place, which are the public means of transport, and how to implement the visit also for the people who are unable to go, for example, in the cavern of San Francisco and so on. So we have give also a sort of managing plan of the facilities that you can give to the people for the visit of the place. Si può uscire. No. So this is the website of the project, and as I told before, in March we will have the opportunity to have a big conference on 23 of March in Italy, in Perugia, in the Basilica of Santa Maria degli Angeli. And now we will give you the opportunity to participate to this conference. It will be also, I think, in the web, online. We are organizing all to facilitate the people. And you can find soon the website of the conference with the topics and the criteria for participate to the conference. So I would like to show you the second part, but it will be more faster, I hope. About the second European project that I would like to share with you, because it's a very particular use of 3D modeling. This is related to the sound, to the musician, to the possibility of the restitution of the sound in the 3D model, of the sound itself, of the building itself. So we have, in this case, 3 main halls of 3 main theaters in Europe. First of all, we have the Concerthaus di Berlino, that is an architecture, originally was an architecture of Schinkel, of the beginning of the 19th century. Now it was rebuilt after the Second World War, and it was renewed in 1984. But the shape is quite the same. Then we have the new theater of Maggio Musicale Fiorentino, that is the new theater of opera in Florence, and the opera house of Lviv. This was chosen before of the war. So it was a very interesting case study, because we have followed very narrow the development of the situation in Ukraine. And also, we have already some colleagues of us that work with us, and it was a very shock for us when they have during the meeting, sorry, I have leave you because the sounds of the alarm. I don't know if we can come back. So this was our experience with the world. It's incredible. So the project. We have here a group of work that is the University of Berlin. That is a university of the Faculty of Digital Engineering. Oh, sorry. And the colleague from Lviv that are in charge of the developing of the touristic system, because one of the aim, I told that this project was developed in the Creative Europe, so it's devoted for the spectacle, for the happening and so on. So this project is related to the music and how we can use this 3D model for disseminating the music, but also for selling the ticket inside the concert, because the people have can choose the different place in relation to the different sounds that they can hear. And here, so we have already the documentation of the place itself for building the model. That was, we used the laser scanning, digital survey, already the photogrammetry and so on. So the optimizing of the data and the construction of a 3D model that was very specific for the restitution of the sounds itself. And then the creation of multisensorial virtual reality. I will show you in the last part of the conference, for an immersive experience that you can have with the Oculus system. We don't have now the Oculus system, so you can have an idea. So here we have the data for the survey, the technical data. This is the survey of the new buildings of the theater of Florence. That is really good architecture, good new architecture. And this is the survey with the colored clouds of point of the interior of the main hall of the theater. This is the Concerthaus of Berlin, the square, Gendarmenmarkt, the square, the historical center of Berlin, with the two churches. And this is the interior. It's already a view of the colored clouds of points of the interiors. And this is the last one, that is the interior of the theater of Lviv in Ukraine. And this was realized together laser scanning and 3D photogrammetry to have a better resolution of all the decoration system of the theater that you can see is very complicated. It's belonged for the beginning of 20th century. This is some picture about our work and some word about the description of the technical point and the process that we have from the clouds of point to the 3D model. Somebody of you, of the students, has had this experience about the BIM, that we have a scan to BIM system. It's quite the same thing. We need for having these models with the sound inside, we have to build the 3D model, as we can see here, but we have to study and to realize the model of each one of the elements that gives or catch the sound inside. So we can see all the material also that compose all the elements. For example, this is an example of a chair that has different sound restitution from the different materials that we have. So we have built a 3D museum, the 3D model that has these characters. Each one of the materials, you can see, has the description of the acoustic restitution of the sound, and already we have the interiors of the Concerthaus of Berlin. And this is showing the process from the clouds of point. We have a model subdivided into each one of the surfaces, and we have built already the texture model with the photogrammetry for having already the subdivided model is useful for the restitution of the sound, only for the sound. And for the video, for the visual experience, we have to build the textured model. At least we have the 3D model that gives to the user the opportunity to hear the same sound in the different place of the theater, and also in the middle of the orchestra. This is the characteristic of each one of the materials, with the characteristic of the restitution of the sound of each one of the material, and the surfaces, the colored surfaces, to have the visual experience. So, thank you, but I would like to show the last video. This is a video you have to... This is the video for the experience, so it's a spheric video. But we have here the idea, because you are with the glasses, you are in the middle of the situation. This is the music was registered in a special camera, each one of the instrument, and then putting together all the sound of the instrument and giving each one to the instrument the restitution of the sound of each one, the material. So if you are in the middle of the theater, you have all the system. If you are on the back, you have another resolution of the audience. If you are on the top, and it is. So it's not good to see in this manner, but it's only to give you the idea of our work. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope to have been clear about these two, that are the two main projects that we are now following in our institution. Thank you very much. If you have some questions, but I am here.
Good morning. Thank you for your very nice presentation and topic of research. In your opinion, what are the main influences of the Franciscan order in the architecture? Because you were explaining that normally they used some other sacred places from other religions, from Celtic, I don't know, some early Roman religions, and Benedictine. But since Franciscan order is very attached to poverty and to simplicity, I imagine that the architecture followed somehow those ideas.
Sometime.
Okay. Well, this is one question. The second question is more mathematical, and to describe the acoustic properties of a certain place, you need to describe the acoustic impedance of the materials. And so I believe you are measuring it for each material. So those are the two questions.
Starting from the second, yes. Because we have a database of each one of the materials, and we have tasted each one of case studies, each one of institution, the German tested his own materials. In Italy, we have tested our. So our work, it was, first of all, to subdivide the models in the materials, to have the opportunity to the restitution of the sound. The sound itself was realized in a special camera that is called the anechoica camera. Each one of the instruments, you have seen the music is not so. One of the first experience in this system, but each one of the instruments was registered in a special camera, and then we have a special program that calculates the resonance of each one of the materials and give us the opportunity. So it's a digital system that gives us the sound, the final sound of because the sound is registered in this special camera without reflection. For the first, the first question about the Franciscan, it's also already my problem, because we have chosen the order, the Franciscan observers, because it seems that have the building low quality, low impressive, and so on. And we have surveying these places, we have really the sensation that we want to give. The main idea is the poverty, not the poverty as we can have in our idea now, but the distance from the normal occupation of the people. So it's the other problem is that they are very linked with the hermetic. So to be quiet, to have the forest of the holy place of the forest for having meditation, and to enrich this place. I haven't speak about this, but to enrich these places with a system. Each one has a system of signal. So in each one of these places you have a trip. This it's a signal of a spiritual trip that each one of them cover, maybe each day, maybe the pilgrim cover once upon a time, but you have a system of signals we have found the reconstruction, for example, 2 or 3 times we have the reconstruction of a Holy Sepulchre. And this is a very important thing for the Franciscan, because they was the custody of Terra Santa, and they have the key. No, they don't have the key. The Muslims have the key, but they stay inside. And so when we have the period of the Crusades, it was so important to give to the people the idea that the holy place, to give the people to have the opportunity to replace the holy place. They can't go in Jerusalem, so we have New Jerusalem inside each one of our convent. And this is another idea that we have. And the other idea is that what happened in the Latin America, the syncretism with the religion, there was very open, because the people have in their mind we have to get in mind that in the Middle Age, the Catholic religion, the Christian religion, was an urban phenomenon, only an urban phenomenon, and the upper class phenomenon, not disseminated. All the people in the countryside we call Pagana religion, because the people of the Pagi, of the villages, has sometimes has his ideas. And to replace, to stay in this place of the ancient culture, and especially joined with the heart. This is another idea, especially La Verna. We have the cave in the heart, the heart of the heart. So there's a relation with the heart and the relation with the landscape. it was also useful to have the relation with the landscape for the water, for the agriculture, for the forest, because they have, the forest was the oil of the antiquity. So you have a little reserve of oil and so. So these are some of the ideas that I have in my trip in the Franciscan Order. Thank you for your question.
Apenas para complementar,
Va bene in brasiliano, eh?
sì, lui va mostrare una piccolina parte da Masada. Pedi para ele mostrar Masada para você conhecer essa parte da maquete. La piccolina parte di Masada, perché lui è stato lì e voi conoscere, eravamo parlare di questo e un'opportunità di vedere.
We have had for 4 years this work in the Masada Fortress in Israel with the National Park Authority of Israel, and we have print 2 books about our work in Herod Fortress in Masada. You can, the lights. This is a video that the authority give us. We can't go by the helicopter over the place. But these are the first results of the survey. We have surveyed all the, this is only the first part, the Herod's Palace in this video, but we have already finished the complete survey of the top of the area with all the remains that we have on the top of the area, and we have already surveyed the line, the defensive line of the Romans that you can see downstairs, down in the desert with the and this is, first of all, we have the clouds of point, and then we have the 3D model extracted by the clouds of point. We can use the mesh system for having the clouds of point, the model from the clouds of points. And then we can cover the clouds of point to have a more impressive model with the colors of the photogrammetric survey. Certainly, we was here in a phase that was, you can see several holes in the mountains, because it's very difficult to go with the instruments down the slope of the mountain. And here we have the 3D model. This was the triclinium of the Herod Palace, all over the Dead Sea. That here we are at quite at the level of the sea, but the mountain rises from the bottom, that is 400 meters down the level of the sea. And also here we have realized the tactile models for the blind people and so on. So we have also the Avenida São Paulo, we can show. This is a work that we have done with the it's time to finish.
Yeah, I would like to thank you for the magnificent conference. But just I would like that you say something about our experience that we are going to
Indeed.
made up in these days, in a topic of
Yeah. But we can have on the back São Paulo Avenida San João. And we talk about other things. So we have had this good experience, first of all, with Luciano and Professor Beatriz, because our aim is to, in these international activities, is to disseminate what we have. We have a little knowledge about how to manage the data of cultural heritage, how to survey the architecture, how to get data from the architecture, because we think that getting the data and the accuracy of the data that we have from the architecture is the main point for the conservation. We can have conservation without the best knowledge. It depends naturally from the nature of the monuments. Big monuments, big data. Little monument. But I am, as you know, in Florence it was born the scientific restoration. Scientific restoration was born by the flooded that we have in the 60 years. As you know, Florence, the River Arno flooded all over the town center of Florence. So we began to manage the restoration, the picture, the frescoes that was under the water, and then, but it was not only water, but oil, everything. So it was it was born in several years, a very big experience about the scientific restoration. That it means the knowledge from one side, the knowledge of the materials, with a scientific analysis of the materials. It means already atomic analysis and so on. But on the other side, we have acquired the knowledge of the ancient technique of realization of the materials, but also the mortars. And it was very important because you can't, in the actual criteria, but it was not so clear in the beginning, in the actual, you can put a new mortar attached with the old mortar. We have the cement that give a lot of problem. Come si chiama il gesso? Gypsum. And so all the problems. And we have had, especially with the Opificio delle Pietre Dure, that was our institution that works in the restoration, because the Medicis built this big factory of, especially for the knowledge of the stone. So this knowledge of the materials come from these institutions. And then the Centro Nazionale delle Ricerche, that is CNR, that is working now. So it's the discriminant from the older way of restoration and new ideas of restoration, giving the attention not only to the decorative aspects, to the paintings, not only, but also going in deep in the structure, in deep of the materials, in deep of the knowledge of the surfaces, but also the last acquisition with the experience with the earthquakes. It was very important also, the experience that we have acquired with the earthquakes, because it was a disaster, but you can see what happened inside the walls. So in the demolished, you can understand what was the criteria for building and so on. So it's another big opportunity due to the disaster that we have put in our experience. So the experience about the static diagnostic of the building itself. We have seen that in one of these convents we have realized this kind of analysis. And how to use, this is very important for us, how to use the new technologies for this, because they help a lot in the non-destructive analysis. Because before you have to break the mortar, to break the wall, to can see So we can reduce, in the process of conservation, in the process of restoration, we can reduce this activity, that is a destructive activity. Oh no, sorry. We can reduce this destructive in favor of the remote sensing analysis that we can have. The drone especially have give us the opportunity to see from the top what happened, and the stability of the monument is one of the most important part. If the roof is good, you can, you hope in the. Another thing that I want to give you from our experience is that the digitalization of cultural heritage. We have speak about restoration and so on, but already the documentation itself, the creation of 3D modeling, the creation of clouds of points, it's a starting point for the conservation, but also for the conservation of the image. Now we have what happened with the roof of Notre Dame. No? Now we have an opportunity to give, also if we have a good situation, but we don't know what happened, especially with the war and also with the disaster. So digitalizing the monument is very important. It's important like before we have had with the pictures, because we have had the pictures of the monument, we know what happened. And it's a point from starting, we have the accuracy of the description of the building. So in the future, it will be a very good opportunity for the conservation, because in 10 years, 20 years, it will be possible. But we have a database of the situation of 20 years before, 50 years before, that is a starting point for the new consideration about the conservation that we will have in the future. So, sorry. Thank you very much.
It is just a suggestion, maybe silly, a silly suggestion, but a span of air inside a theater, a musical theater, can be described also by the modes of vibration. And so a description in terms of modes of vibration can be more precise to describe a certain theater. And maybe this is something that can be attached to the research for the future.
Thank you. And we have also the acoustic technician that are involved, as you can understand. We are working only about the 3D model, but certainly we have several aspects that can be used in this project. One of the aspects that we have combined, for example, is when we have the theater, we have the scenic front, and it changed with the typology of the scenic alignment that we have. So this is other point that change all the situation. So this is the first step, I hope. Thank you very much. Ma caffè non si piglia stamani? Coffee break. Thank you. I'm
Thank
Italian.
you
Coffee.
Thank you very much, Professor Bertocci. I thank you for your brilliant, beautiful, and important conference that made us learn about conservation, history, material culture. Grazie mille. Mi è piaciuto molto.
Bene, grazie.
Thank you very much, my colleagues from the Faculty of Architecture, especially Beatriz and Luciano. Thank you all for this morning.
Grazie.
Grazie.